Hello everyone, in this video we're going to draw a Minecraft skeleton. Start by drawing a big cube for the head. Draw a vertical line for the first edge of the cube. Sketch lightly at first so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. Also pause the video to draw at your own pace. To the right, draw a slightly shorter vertical line for the outer edge of the cube. Pay attention to the spacing between the lines. To the left of the first line, draw an even shorter vertical line for the other edge of the cube. The space on the left side should be less than half the width of the space on the right side. Connect the vertical lines at the top using sloping lines for the top edge of the cube. Draw the line on the left smaller than the line on the right. The outer tips of these lines should slope downward. Now close off the shape of the cube at the bottom using a couple more lines. The first line should slope up slightly on the right side. The second line should slope up higher on the left side. Inside the section on the right, draw a vertical line. This is a construction guide that will help you place the facial features later on. In the middle of the shape, draw a horizontal line for another construction guide. These lines should divide the right side of the head into 4 equal squares. Under the head, draw a square as a guide for the body. First, draw 2 vertical lines under the head. Draw the line on the right shorter than the line on the left. Close off the shape at the bottom using a sloping horizontal line. Under the square, draw a short vertical line as a guide for the spine. Below the spine, draw a small rectangular shape as a guide for the pelvis. First, draw a sloping horizontal line for the top part of the rectangle. Then draw 2 shorter vertical lines for the sides. Close off the shape at the bottom using another sloping horizontal line. On the left side of the body, draw a long vertical line as a guide for the first arm. Bend the top part of the arm in toward the body to create the shoulder. Draw this line slightly below the pelvis. On the right side, draw another vertical line as a guide for the other arm. The line on the right should be shorter than the line on the left because the body is slightly turned. Below the pelvis, draw 2 long vertical lines as guides for the legs. Pay attention to the placement of these lines in relation to the pelvis. Draw the line on the right slightly shorter than the line on the left. Make a small mark about halfway on the arm on the left for the first part of the bow. Now extend the mark to create a long sloping line as a guide for the string on the bow. This line should slightly overlap the pelvis. At the bottom, draw a long curved line for the bow. This curved line should slightly overlap the leg and the pelvis. And that's it for the guidelines. Now let's start on the final drawing. Inside the head, under the horizontal construction guide, draw 2 small rectangles for the eyes. To draw each rectangle, first draw 2 short vertical lines under the guide for the sides. Then close off the shapes at the bottom using short horizontal lines. Sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. Draw the eyes on either side of the vertical construction guide. The spacing between the eyes should be about the same length as one of the eyes. Below the eyes, in the middle, draw another small rectangle for the nose. Make the nose the same size as one of the eyes. Below the nose, draw a long rectangle for the mouth. The sides of the mouth should line up with the sides of the eyes. There should be a small space between the bottom of the mouth and the bottom of the head. Now darken the initial lines to finish the shape of the head. Don't darken the construction guides, only the lines for the cube. If you're having trouble drawing straight lines, just use a ruler or any other straight edge. Darken the vertical line on the left side of the body for the first part of the arm. To the right, draw another long vertical line for the inner edge of the arm. Draw this line very close to the body. Close off the shape at the bottom using a short sloping line. To the left, draw another long vertical line for the outer edge of the arm. Draw this line very close to the line in the middle. Connect the lines at the bottom. The left side of the arm should be a lot thinner than the right side. At the top, close off the shape using a couple of short angled lines. Now use the curved line under the arm as a guide to draw the bow. Draw a series of short angled lines along the path of the guide for the edge of the bow. Don't overlap the shape of the arm as you draw the bow. Draw zigzag lines along the middle of the guide and longer rectangular lines on the sides. These angled lines represent the square pixels. The shape of the bow can be tricky to draw, so sketch lightly at first so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. And remember to pause the video to draw at your own pace. You're basically going over the initial curved guideline and turning it into an angular shape so that it represents pixels. Draw a small square-like shape on the top right side of the bow. Now draw more angled lines toward the arm for the top edge of the bow. The bow will overlap a big part of the pelvis. Sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. Remember to use a ruler if you're having trouble drawing straight lines. You may also find it easier to turn your paper around as you draw the lines. The zigzag lines along the bottom edge of the bow should be similar to little steps. The left side of the bow should be smaller and thinner because it's farther away. Draw a small square-like shape on the left tip of the bow. The bow doesn't have to be perfect. Just draw a curved shape that's made up of smaller angled lines. Now use the sloping line at the top as a guide to draw the string on the bow. Draw a series of small squares along the guide to create the string. Draw the squares on their sides so that they look more like diamonds. The shapes should gradually get smaller the farther to the left they are. Don't overlap the shape of the arm as you draw the string. Sketch lightly at first, and when you get the shapes right, darken the lines. On the left side of the arm, there should only be a couple of small squares for the string. Now draw a series of short angled lines on the side of the bow to make the shape more three-dimensional. Extend the edges of the bow farther to the right to make the shape thicker. Don't draw these lines too far to the right or the bow will be too thick. The shape should be wider at the top because of the angle of the bow. The lines for the string should be smaller the farther left they are. Sketch lightly at first as you add the squares so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. The string is behind the arm, so don't overlap the arm with the squares. The width of the shapes won't be too visible along the bottom edge of the bow because of the angle. Make the width of the bow on the left side thinner than the right because it's farther away. Draw a few short angled lines under the head for the first part of the chest. These lines should create a shape that's similar to a wide letter T. Use angled lines for the sides of the shape and a short horizontal line for the bottom. Use the square in the middle as a guide to draw the chest. Draw a few small squares and rectangles on the sides of the guide for the ribs. Start by drawing a small square on the top left side of the guide. Below that, draw a wide rectangle. Add a long rectangle on the bottom left corner of the guide. Now draw similar shapes on the right side of the guide. Draw a square at the top and two rectangles on the bottom. Draw the shapes on the right side smaller than the shapes on the left. Draw a slightly bigger square on the bottom edge too. Draw this square to the right of the guide for the spine. Now draw a series of short angled lines along the sides of the ribs to make the shapes more three-dimensional. The lines at the top should create a shape that's similar to stairs. Add some short lines between the body and the arm on the left too. Don't draw these lines too far to the left or the shape will be too thick. Because of the angle of the body, most of the lines will be on the top section of the shapes. Draw 2 more small squares at the bottom to complete the ribs. Make the square on the right slightly smaller than the square on the left. Darken the guides under the ribs to create the spine and pelvis. Don't overlap the shape of the bow as you draw the pelvis. Just darken the guides on the right side of the bow. Draw a few short lines between the arm and the initial rectangle for the side of the pelvis. Draw an angled line on top of the initial rectangle to make the shape of the pelvis thicker. The shape of the pelvis should be similar to a brick. Draw a couple of vertical lines in the middle to make the spine thicker. Draw a line under the head for the top part of the spine. Darken the vertical line on the right side of the body for the first part of the other arm. To the left, draw a few more vertical lines to make the shape of the arm thicker. Don't overlap the ribs as you make the arm thicker. Darken the line on the bottom left side for the first leg. Now draw 2 more vertical lines on the sides to make the leg thicker. The lines on the sides should be shorter than the line in the middle. Close off the shape at the bottom using shorter lines. Draw the leg on the right the same way. Darken the line in the middle and then draw 2 more vertical lines on the sides. Make the lines on the sides shorter and then close off the shape at the bottom. Now go over the final lines with a pen, a marker, or any other type of permanent ink. The next few steps are sped up so that the video won't be too long. Take your time and be careful when you ink your drawing to avoid any accidents. Don't ink the initial guidelines, only the final drawing. When the ink dries, erase all of the guidelines. Now color your drawing. Use gray for the entire body. Color the eyes and mouth black and the nose and the string dark gray. Use brown for the bow. And that's it for the Minecraft skeleton. Don't forget to pause the video to draw at your own pace. Also, please visit EasyDrawingTutorials.com where every step of this tutorial is broken down into an individual image. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment. Also subscribe for more videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep drawing.